"Help me!" are the words I should have screamed, but instead I hid it away, my scars and my suffering. I almost lost, and even though I know I shouldn't, I blame myself. It all started in 8th grade, when my mom made me ride the bus home for the first time ever. It was new, but I slowly got used to it. Just wait in the gym with everyone until my bus number was called. Everything was normal, until a new guy, we'll call him Wilson, moved to my school. We didn't talk too much, but he was friends with my friend Danny, so he was around often. He acted like a good friend at first, very kind and very funny. But after a while, Wilson took a special interest in me. I quickly noticed that Wilson had been talking to me more, or at least trying to. He asked me for my number so we could talk. I didn't really have a reason not to, so I did, and we started talking. He would text me after school, usually flirting, saying how pretty I was or that we should hang out more often. I didn't usually respond. But if I did, I would just laugh or text back a blushing emoji. Because, well, I figured out he actually had a girlfriend already, so I tried to stop him from texting me because it felt wrong. But when I told him to stop, he changed, and for the worse. "It's okay," he'd reassure me. His girlfriend was fine with it, so there was nothing wrong. Fine, I guess. At this point, I had no reason to distrust him, so I continued texting him, without reciprocating his flirting to avoid hurting his girlfriend. But his texting became more and more constant and very pushy. He would tell me to compliment him, and tell him I want to be with him too. It made me upset, and I never wanted to say any of those things. But he said it was just some fun role-playing, just like how some kids pretended to be princesses or superheroes. I thought that'd be it, just some over-the-phone role-playing. But then, his assertiveness became real when he began to talk like that in person. He would walk with me to my bus and say things like he'll miss me, or even to make sure I was there early the next day. I thought that was as far as he'd go, but one day, he asked me out. "Excuse me?" I stared at him for a second, in shock, and finally asked about his girlfriend. Did they break up? Nope. He told me the same thing, that she wouldn't mind. I doubted that. I knew his girlfriend, and that would break her heart, so I said no. He seemed fine with the answer until the next day when he asked again. "No," I said for a second time now. Now he was angry. His expression twisted and he stormed off as if I promised him, owed him a yes. I was a little worried, but didn't let it bother me. Soon enough, he'd get over it, get over me, and we'll be back as friends. But I was wrong. Day after day, over and over, he asked me the same thing, until one day when we were left completely alone, he finally asked me a different question. "What is wrong with you?" he interrogated. "What?" But before I could respond, he hit me right in the cheekbone. I was stunned. I couldn't believe it. How could he do that to me? I stared in shock, my face stinging. I wanted to cry, but couldn't. He quickly hugged me and said, "Look, I just want you, okay? I love you." And he walked away while I stayed there. I don't think the shock ever really wore off after this first time, because soon it began happening more often, from once a week to once a day. And there was nothing I felt like I could do about it. Anything and everything I did made him mad, and he would take his anger out on me, hitting me, or simply putting me down. He would tell me I was ugly and that nobody would love me as much as him, and that my friends and family didn't care about me, or else why wouldn't they stop him? In my desperation, I believed him. I believed everything he said and every excuse he had for hitting me, and it became more violent. He would hit me everywhere, from head to toe. After each time he hit me, he would say it was because he loves me, and that he's just helping me know what's right from wrong. I felt like he was all I had, like a stray dog, and I couldn't defend myself. The one time I tried to defend myself ended with him catching my arm mid-swing, and me on the ground with my head hitting the concrete. This carried on for months. Months of the hitting and him putting me down. Months of suffering. It became so bad that my legs, arms, and stomach were covered in purple and black. I kept half of my face covered with my hair, and I covered myself with pants and a jacket even though it was terribly hot outside. I was called emo or goth for it, but what could I do? I even began using makeup to conceal my injuries. I was scared he would see me talking to someone like a friend or anyone and go through with hurting them. In my mind, I was protecting the world from him, so I kept quiet for a long time, until one day when my class had a free day, that someone finally found out. One of my classmates, who I used to be friends with before all this, walked past my desk to see the teacher. When he walked back, he smiled at me, and I instinctively moved my hair briefly to smile back. But instead of returning to his desk, he stood there with his mouth wide open and my heart dropped. "Oh my God," he gasped. But I just whispered, "Shh," and put my head down. I should have been glad someone found out. But in that moment, I was scared of how much trouble I was in with Wilson. For the rest of the day, I felt my heart in my stomach and prepared my body for more scars. The next day, I was in my English class when I got called out. The classmate who found out was gone, so I knew what this was about. And I just began to cry. When I got to the office, I was scared. In there was the principal and 2 police officers. I was shaking. They finally calmed me down with some jokes, and this was the first time I had actually laughed in what felt like forever. It felt relieving. And when I realized he wasn't there, I relaxed, and they began asking me questions and asked to see the text messages and took photos of my bruises. Then they revealed that Wilson had a weapon on him. According to his friends, he would constantly talk about using it on me. They thought he was joking, but seeing me like this now, they took a deep breath and knew he was serious. I was beyond horrified. I burst into a fit of tears, unable to imagine what could have happened to me or anyone else he's threatened. And after all the questions, they contacted my mom and grandfather, who took me to get my injuries looked at. For the next few weeks, I recovered, but I still had nightmares and something my doctor called PTSD. Sometimes I can still hear his yells and see Wilson's face, twisted and violent, which triggers so many emotions. Sometimes I even feel his fists strike my face or stomach, which makes me sick. But I'm glad and thankful for those who chose to be my voice when I thought I didn't have one, because I can finally heal, and because they helped me dodge a bullet. Maybe literally.